So we'll start with the opening remark. My name is Khulud Khatib. I am a WITS ambassador and advisory board member at WITS Worldwide. I am so happy to welcome you today at this event. And on behalf of my colleague ambassadors, Dr. Arij Al-Wabil, the director of الفرص Artificial Intelligence Center and WITS ambassador and advisory board member, and Engineer Suad Al-Jufr, WITS ambassador and data scientist at the Ministry of Municipal Rural Affairs and Housing. Welcome to WITS at Riyadh 2024. So let me give you a bit of a background about WITS. WITS is an initiative that started in 2015. And the purpose of it is basically empowering women to the field of data science. It started as a conference at Stanford University, and this initiative will become very popular, as you can see in my screen, that now we're talking about more than 200 events around the world and more than 180,000 total broadcast downloads, 6 seasons. We've been doing the events for so many years now, and a lot of people really touched by this initiative. So what is the inspiration behind WITS? It basically increasing the representation of women to reach 30% by 2030. We are underrepresented in the education, innovation, and leadership, as you can see in this slide. So we have some work to do to increase our representation. And the urgency of it is data science is critically reshaping our world at an ever-increasing rate. And as said, we are still underrepresented. So it's critical to increase this participation because we want to introduce diverse perspective, reduce bias to benefit societies worldwide, and engage data for broader community benefits. For example, more let's say opportunities in improving women's health will be enabled if we have more people have access to the data and embrace data science. Of course, when we talk about data science, it has a big spectrum of practices, from the data analytics all the way to AI and generative AI. Here we see over the years the progression of this movement. As you can see, the excitement about women in data science is increasing across the globe. And if we come back home here in Riyadh and go back to the history, Women in Data Science started in 2017 by Dr. Arij Al-Wabil. She's the hero of Women in Data Science in Saudi Arabia. So it was organized by CACST and was hosted at Rafit University in Jeddah. And then in 2018, she hosted the first WITS in Riyadh, and that was CACST. And she had the established scientists. At the time, I was one of them. I was invited to see all this engaging movement along with established ladies from around the kingdom and internationally. And along that, CACST also was celebrating women in data science. And from that time, the movement started to expand until in 2020, Dr. Asil Dawood started to create what is called WITS in KSA. So we include all the events under one umbrella. And guess what? We became one of the leading countries in women in data science around the world. For the past 3 years, we are the top in terms of the presenters and in terms of the attendees. Over the last 3 years, we have 3 cities participating, more than 64,000 beneficiaries from the event, a lot of workshops, a lot of speakers, and the list goes on and on. So we have a very rich agenda for you today, starting with the first roundtable discussion about the data science and venture investment and entrepreneurship. So we're gonna talk with you about the different perspectives in this industry from different participants. And then around 6 p.m., we're gonna translate to the roundtable discussion offline. So our audience online will take a little break, and then around 7, we'll resume our broadcast with the data science in art and culture. And that will continue until 7:50, where we're going to transition again to roundtable discussion offline. And that would be at the end of the streaming for tonight. And here on site, we will have the closing remarks and networking event. So with that, let's move on to our first item in our agenda, the data science opportunities and challenges in venture investment and entrepreneurship. Our first roundtable discussion, I will start with the opening remarks. So why data science is important in that industry? As you know now, the decision-making is data-driven, or at least that's how we want to make it. And that's what is reshaping the business landscapes. So it enhances the investment strategies and risk assessments and the operational efficiency. And from the entrepreneur side, it empowers the entrepreneurs to leverage insight for innovation and growth. So it's becoming one of the critical tools that everyone in the business would like to leverage to be able to see that edge, to be able to see that opportunity hidden within the data. So the purpose of today's discussion is basically to explore the transformative role of data science in venture capital investments and entrepreneurship. And we want to identify those opportunities and challenges faced by the stakeholders. So to give a comprehensive image about what's happening in that industry, we are so lucky to have with us esteemed presenters from the venture capitalists to the accelerator to the entrepreneurs. I am so delighted to welcome my esteemed presenters here with me, and I thank them for making the time to be with us. We will, due to some let's say, a rearrangement in the agenda, we'll start with the accelerator. We're lucky to have Ms. Iman Shakur, the venture capitalist and CEO of Blossom Accelerator, with us on the stage. I'm just going to skip some slides for you. All right, here you go. The floor is yours, Iman.
Hi, everyone. Okay, everyone can hopefully hear me. Okay. First and foremost, huge thank you to Dr. Khulud for this esteemed organization. And from the bottom of my heart, we're in a WhatsApp group before commencing this. I'm just looking at the names. So many of you are my role models and have been for over 10 plus years. So I just feel very honored to be in the same category, to even be speaking at the same event. There's a lot to talk about when we talk about data, specifically related to the world of acceleration and venture capital. Before I get into it, I'll give you a bit introduction about myself, and then I would love to get into the data aspect of it. So a little bit about me. My name is Iman Abdul Shakur. I also go by Iman Shakur, and I wear 5 different hats. The largest logo you see in the middle is my predominant and main hat. I started a company nearly a decade ago called Blossom Accelerator. And when we first started in 2017, I was a young, naive, and ambitious 23-year-old on a mission trying to change the world. So we started, and we were known as the region's first female-focused accelerator back in 2017. And I started with that mission because, I mean, as many of you might know at the time, you know, it was a very different Saudi Arabia. Like, women still couldn't drive. There were barely any female founders in tech. There was, you know, a huge gap. And so I came fresh back from California thinking, okay, I'm going to start this company and change it. Since then, it's been 8 years later. 2 years away from a decade. Sounds crazy. I've also revealed my age. But essentially today, Blossom has changed. Today, we not only focus on women, we have an inclusivity agenda. So we coin ourselves a global accelerator and ecosystem builder, serving the world, but headquartered out of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I'll talk about why it's important, why we actually pivoted from female focus to inclusion, and how data was part of that primary shift. But Blossom is one of my main hats. Another hat I wear other than Blossom is I'm also a venture partner at Oryx Fund and have been for the last 3 years. So Oryx Fund is the first European fund to enter Saudi Arabia. We are a $50 million fund. We are a venture capital firm. And what we do is we invest. We invest in early stage companies. We invest in pre-seed and seed. Our sweet spot is companies below the $10 million valuation. We love anything ed tech, fintech, health tech, and logistics. And then we also, if anything is B2B enterprise SaaS, we think that's really interesting. If there are any female founders listening and you want to apply, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can apply to Oryx. We love supporting the exponential power of exceptional female talent. So that's my second hat. My third is also for the last, I think now 5 years, I've been on the opportunity committee at Accelerator. So we see incredible startups apply to Accelerator all the time. And I'm part of the committee of giving those startups an opportunity so they can pitch for investment. I guest lecture a class every April at Stanford in Palo Alto called Entrepreneurship Without Borders with Professor Chuck Easley, where I talk and bring in the KSA and MENA market. And last but not least, because I like to talk a lot, I also started a podcast with الرقمي called Shagaf that again focuses on the exponential power of exceptional female talent, because I think inclusion is the core to driving more innovation and more economic returns, tying back into data. But essentially, one of the main things I really wanted to discuss today is kind of the shift we made in 2017 from female focused to 2020 and 2021, really refining that and going into inclusion. So just some data. So globally, nearly half of all businesses globally, everywhere, in Asia, in North America, in Africa, in the Middle East, are owned by women, right? So half of all businesses around the world are women-owned, which is great. But then specifically related to venture capital, related to financing, related to funding, right? Because if you want to exponentially grow this company, you'll need funding. Very, very little funding goes to women. And this is not a unique phenomenon to Saudi Arabia or the region. This is true to even Silicon Valley, which is the most active ecosystem in the world when it comes to all things startups and venture capital. Even there, less than 3%. So imagine if all of the money that Silicon Valley outpours, all the VC money that they invest into founders, 2.9% of that goes to women. So 2.9% of that goes to female-led tech companies. That's pretty astounding. Like, I think everyone should pause and think about, why does that inequality exist? And I'll talk a little bit more about that from the data perspective. So 98% of funding goes to male founders and male founding teams. And when we look at those statistics in the region here, Magnet and Saudi Venture Capital issue a report almost quarterly talking about all things startups and investments and rounds. And in their latest report, we have a very impressive, actually Saudi Arabia today has the fastest growing segment of female entrepreneurs in the world. So that means the number of female participation, not only the workforce, but in terms of like women who want to start businesses is on the fastest growing rates in the world. But then later, when we look beyond those numbers as, okay, how many of those founders, female founders are receiving funding? I think if we all collectively just think, how many female-led tech companies do we know? بالكثير ما يوصلوا ل10, right? It's really hard to think, oh, I know that one. I met her once at an event and this other one at the conference and I saw this other girl pitch at Leap. But really, it's slim. And so the data from Magnet showcased that across the region, across the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa as a whole, it was, are you ready for the statistic? 49% female entrepreneurs as a statistic, and 0.05. That's like that's half of 1%. I mean, that's less, it's not great. And so there's so many reasons why, right? There are some studies that show, and it's true, the way us women, our brains are wired, we're incredible leaders. We're also perfectionists. We like to make make sure everything is, perfectly aligned before we launch. I think men have that more like risk appetite, and that's also why men die earlier than women, because they're more likely to do risky decisions in business and out of business if they're driving a car or doing anything else. But there's also something I always like to draw to everyone's attention, and it's so important. My background was in neuroscience before I transitioned to being an entrepreneur, and no one talks enough about it. I think it's super important. It's so important because it's unconscious. So it happens magically without people knowing, and it's called the unconscious bias. And what it really just means is who you tend to like as human beings, who you tend to befriend are people that are similar to you, okay? They sound like you, they have the same accent, they have a similar upbringing. If you're from Mecca, they're from Mecca. If you sit in California, usually that's just how human nature works. It's a biological mechanism that we have. Our brains, when we meet people, we make quick decisions about them because we need to protect ourselves in the wild. That's how it always was. And so we quickly make a decision about the person in front of us. And so as an ecosystem, for the most part, a lot of the decision makers, limited partners, family offices, most GPs of funds, these are male-driven decisions. These are men seated within these positions. So come along, young, cute, e-commerce marketplace, biotech company solving health. There's a disconnect. It's not because people are evil. It's not because I don't want to fund her. It happens on an unconscious level where there's just this natural progression and leaning towards, this is the son of the guy that I've been doing business with. Like, it just naturally happens, right? And unconscious bias is not only to men, right? It's not just men sitting around, women have it against other women, right? Again, going back to similar dialects, similar regions. And it's so important to hold ourselves accountable to gender bias because even I'm guilty of it. And I'm the one who's starting the female-focused accelerator. And I think just highlighting that is really important on the data aspect of things. And how can we sharpen our lens when it comes to investment, when it comes to decision making of actually outpouring this funding and moving beyond what we think is a great founder and who seems to be really impressive to us versus just looking at the data and looking at their unit economics, looking at their profit margins, looking at their early traction, looking at their years of experience as a team, and talking about it is really the first step. And the last thing I'll say about gaps in venture capital is obviously access to networks. And of course, women can get access to any network. At the end of the day, any female founder can go to Leap and go to Step and go to Gitex. But I'm talking about the select, let's call networks, like the Diwania networks, the after-hour networks, right? It would be awkward, I think, for some people of this society to go to those kinds of events if they're usually male-dominated. And there are a lot of initiatives to spearhead that. There's the incredible Women Leaders initiative started by the incredible Basma Sinadi and a lot of different and incredible women to actually give women more access to networks. But that's still an important one because at the end of the day, especially beyond investment, if you're a female founder and you're looking to push in millions of revenue for your company, and specifically if you're B2G, if you're working with government, and if you're doing a lot of work in the tendering process on I'timad, if you're doing a lot of work B2B with the big banks, a lot of those networks are predominantly men, right? And so it's just important as to why these gaps exist, and looking at the data is that there's still some inequalities in terms of when you look at Fortune 500 companies or just top companies in general, board positions, etc., tend to be decision makers made by men, and so that's where the gaps come into play. Now, the good news though, because we're here not only to discuss the challenges but also the opportunities. It's changing, and it's changing swiftly, and it really is so. I think everyone can feel it in the room. By every event, Riyadh has like 6 events a night, and there's so much opportunity, and we're seeing that growth. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Haneen, who's not here, but she's the founder of Darren, which is like the Airbnb of Saudi Arabia. She just closed an incredible funding round. There's Yara Ghaut, there's Shahad Jifri, there's Sari Dirhari. There's all these new names, and what I love about that is a lot of the times you cannot be what you cannot see. But when you see them going after what they want to do and they're achieving it, even though young or sometimes solo female founder, it really gives everyone hope. And to that, I just want to highlight 4 different initiatives that we're doing in our personal capacity at Blossom, many of them for completely free, to drive our mission of inclusivity beyond gender, because gender is a really important metric, but we want to touch on inclusivity, whether that's related to people of different ability, whether that means people of different nationality, and whether that means different ages, right? Sometimes you're too young to start a company, and sometimes people tell you that you're too old. And so we really, again, believe that by encompassing all groups of society as part of our investment thesis and as part of our programs, we're able to get to the most amount of innovation. And sometimes tackle and serve groups that sometimes might have been overlooked, right? So just 4 quick things, and then I'm going to pass it over to the next distinguished speaker. Blossom Open Library is a brand new initiative that we launched. It's a completely free resource hub that houses over 150 free templates and documents and resources in every sector for you to start your business. You want to download a business plan, a financial plan, hiring agreements, due diligence questionnaire, cap table, completely free. You just have to go to library/blossom.sa and you can download all of that. And the reason why we created that from that inclusivity lens is really to give access to anyone, everywhere. The entire site has been legally approved. Our lawyers have looked over everything. And it's also bilingual. We wanted to make sure that every document is also in Arabic. A lot of programs, including me speaking today, is in English. And so we wanted to make that really accessible. And we have incredible partners and contributors that have been part of that, like 500 Global, like Impact 46, like Raqad, like Tech Invest. And so we're really grateful because they've added and contributed to this platform. The second one is something we partnered up with the NEOM Social Responsibility. We launched NEOM Masterclass. It's videos for free in Arabic, supported with sign language, because that's another very important segment of society that is often overlooked. And I really do believe that sometimes people who have these incredible gifts are often overlooked because they don't always look like us and seem like us, and sometimes they're overshadowed. So we launched that platform with them. And then to also include more segments of different nationalities and perspectives, we partnered up with MISA, with Ministry of Investment, to launch all things soft landing. We have a soft landing program that's completely free in partnership with Ministry of Investment for companies that pass our due diligence. We've empowered founders from Malaysia, from Singapore, from the US, from Silicon Valley, from New York, from London. We were on a call earlier today with a founder out of Bahrain to help attract those incredible minds to Saudi so we can ever grow our economy. And last but not least, very true to our mission of female inclusion, we also have a program focused on a 3-month program focused on helping female founders get investment in partnership with MasterCard. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to the next speaker and say, with challenges, there's also so many opportunities. This is the golden age of Saudi Arabia, and I'm honored to share the stage with such incredible women tonight and be part of the change.
Wow, Iman, that's impressive. I love your energy, mashallah, tabarakallah. And you're going to generate a lot of data through all these initiatives. So we'll look into your data bank. Wonderful. So now I have with me my venture capitalist, Ms. Basma Snaidi, Managing Partner and Vice Chair of Impact 46. Please.
Can I exit and open it again? I'm not sure this will work. بس هي إذا في updated المفروض تكون updated already. أوكي لأن لما رجعتي تو ما كنا updated والله. في 3 slides.
That's a very difficult act to follow, mashallah, Iman. What's happening. Also the initiatives that she's doing with Blossom on the very earlier stages. So I'll be focusing more on later stages and what we're doing at Impact specifically, and the information that has been helping us to identify certain opportunities. I'm sorry, some of these slides appear to be cut, so there isn't a lot of information that will go through the slides, but I'm hoping within the discussion that we'll be having on the roundtable, we'll be able to discuss more and more about the opportunities that cross between venture capital, data science, and investment specifically in startups. So a quick brief about myself and Impact 46. I'm the managing partner and head of asset management at Impact. We're a venture capital firm focused on investments in Saudi, in technology specifically. We've been investing the past 6 years only in technology companies throughout the MENA region, specifically in Saudi. 90% of our investments have been in Saudi. And we've been focusing more on, let's say, Series A stages, later stages, pre-IPO. We've been fortunate enough to back two of the most amazing companies that went to IPO in the Saudi market.
One of them was Jahez and the other was Rasan. And we've also been fortunate to back 6 female founders in terms of startups in different varieties and sectors. So how do the two worlds collide in terms of data science and venture capital or investment specifically? I think the relationship starts in the very early stages in terms of funding and capital that is required from the startups and the companies itself. So there's 2 elements to it, honestly. One is we want to invest in data science and tools that help us in terms of capabilities to enhance decision making. And the second part of it is we ourselves use it day to day without even noticing and without even knowing that it is AI or data science in general. So in terms of, I'll talk about the second part because the first part I think we'll be talking about it more within the roundtable discussion. So in terms of venture capital and how we're utilizing data to actually make decisions, we didn't know what to call it 4 years ago, but I think now we know that what's been labeled in terms of what we're calling it, in terms of data sourcing and resourcing and data information is utilizing AI and data science technology. So 70% of the venture capital process in terms of workflow is actually utilized or leveraged through data science, and that's the deal sourcing part. So how do we find companies to invest in? How do we say this company is good or this company is bad or this company has an opportunity of growth or not? It isn't actually a sole decision making that's driven to us. There's a lot of data biases and internal biases that we actually suffer from during that process. And with the emergence of a lot of tools that are happening and that we're seeing within the sector, a lot of these companies are actually driven to us in terms of what we see in terms of opportunities because of the software that we use, because of the crawlers that are in the web space, which utilizes our existing portfolio, analyzes our existing portfolio, and then comes back to say, hey, you've invested in X or Y or Z. Did you know that this competitor is doing better than that, or this competitor is doing X, Y, and Z? So it's been there's a lot of consciousness that we have to bring in to that decision making as well, and utilizing the data that's given to us to be able to make the right decision, hopefully, in terms of investment opportunities. So that's in terms of how we're being affected by data in terms of investment decisions, and how we need to be conscious more and more that these types of tools or opportunities that's driven to us could be leveraged in a different way than saying that it's as useful as just bringing in deal flow or bringing in opportunities. The second part, which is the most important part, is how the two worlds collide, is the investment side. So 5 years ago, I wouldn't say that we would be courageous enough to invest in AI or look at AI in any way, shape, or form, specifically in Saudi, because there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built for it to be utilized as well. There's a lot of cloud computing. There's a lot of infrastructure in terms of development that you need to have for it to be utilized and to be built in a form or in a way that could be commercialized, that it could be usable, that it could be developed and grow in a larger form, which wasn't there 5 years ago. Not in Saudi, and I think on a global scale as well. We've seen a lot of very fast developments that's been happening in the venture capital space, specifically in AI and Gen AI in the past 3 years, I'd say. And that's when I think a lot of the early adopters in terms of venture capital or investors have been investing in these types of opportunities. And there was a very interesting graph in terms of growth that was happening in terms of developments in AI, but the spike and the growth that we're seeing year on year is enormous. It's not even anything that any type of investment has been witnessed in the past 10 years, and there is definitely a lot more to be capitalized in terms of opportunities in that specific space. Now, a lot of people say, is this a bubble in terms of investment? I think bubbles come in different shapes and forms, so we can't say it's not a bubble, but it's definitely something that no two bubbles are alike, and no two bubbles are the different size when we're saying it's a certain bubble. So there is definitely a value that could be derived from it in terms of an investment opportunity, but there is also consciousness that has to be input into it in terms of when you make the decision to invest and how you make the decision to invest, and specifically the payback period of that investment decision. In terms of just the last point that I wanted to circle back to is women in data science and women in investment specifically. So on a global scale, entrepreneurs and women is exactly as Iman mentioned, is very low in terms of participation, very low in terms of gaining capital from investors. Here in Saudi, it's even, I think, it's in par with global markets when you're looking at it. It's not below or majorly above, but that, I think that's in itself is somewhat of an achievement if you're saying it's in par with global markets when the entrepreneurship ecosystem or the entrepreneurship scene has only started in 2015. So the fact that we were able to catch up with the global markets in terms of what they were doing for the last 30 years in just 7 or 8 years is an accelerated pace. And if we're able to continue on that acceleration, hopefully we'll be able to exceed that specific benchmark. But for impact specifically, I mean, the number of applicants that we're getting that are female founders is only, it's 1% of applicants that actually go forward and apply in terms of funding requirements. But historically, 8% of our founders have been female. So we've invested in multiple companies, and the amazing female founders have been able to lead it in terms of the shifts and changes with the market and how they needed to change their own business. But unfortunately, I'd say we had to go hunt them down. So we had to see that company's success and say who's behind it, and then find that female founder that is behind it. It was very rarely that they would come and apply or say, I needed funding. So I think there's a lot for us to fix in terms of exposure. And it's not only on the entrepreneurs' shoulders in terms of saying you need to be more brave and apply. There's also, it's a two-way street in terms of a relationship, and there's a lot for us to fix in terms of opening the doors for entrepreneurs. I'll leave it to the next speaker.
Basma, that was really very insightful. Thank you very much. You gave us a very deep look into it, and I like how you touched into the culture and the feminine nature, basically, that you have to look and try to find and try to support. So thank you very much for that insight. We'll ask you a lot of questions in the offline discussion. All right, so I guess we're ready now for the entrepreneurs, and I have with me two distinguished entrepreneurs. We'll start with Professor Salwa Al-Hassad, CEO and founder of SEDA. Please.
Stage is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. I'd like you to excuse what I'm wearing. I rushed from the King Khalid Eye Specialist Hospital teaching the AU students, and I don't know how my driver did it, but he went through the King Faisal Specialist Hospital. Next thing I know, I'm here. So I call Khalud and I'm like, I'm here early. It's really interesting. If those of you that don't know me, I've been in the surgical field for the last 35 years. That was 5 years ago. I worked at the King Faisal Specialist Hospital. I ran the ophthalmology unit for about, my God, what, 20, almost close to 25 years. And I was frustrated. I was frustrated because being in a tertiary care center, if you want to believe it, patients would take forever to come to me. And when they did arrive to me, they were blind. And I just couldn't understand. And remember, this was before the era of COVID, where people just didn't believe in anything but physical presence. And I kept asking myself, why can't I take my expertise, put it in a package, and give it to the community? Why am I stuck between the walls of King Faisal Specialist Hospital? And this just kept, nagging me. So after the age of 50, I decided to go and do my master's degree at the University of Southern California on medical management, with emphasis, my thesis was on AI. Why AI? I don't know. It was before the COVID era. Being a surgeon, what's AI? To people, it was a foreign language to me. But I did it. And my mother till this day, البنت هذه ناوية شقة عندها الدكتوراه وتاخذ الماجستير. She couldn't understand it was a different field. But anyways, I ventured into that. And then I came back and I presented it. Now I felt, wow, I'm the guru. You think you know it all. When you're a physician and you learn something new, wow. They thought I was a wacko. They're like, just go see more patients. Just go open more clinics. Don't waste our time. And I just couldn't understand. And I didn't give up. I knew that there was something out there that I could actually grid. So I went to NEOM. Don't ask me, NEOM Riyadh. And they took me on and they're like, Dr. said, well, what do you want? I said, I don't know. They're saying, how can we help you? I said, I don't know. Just open the doors for me. Let me navigate. Because I ventured into an uncharted territory. You're talking about healthcare and tech. And you try to combine them together. Nobody knew what was going on. So anyways, I went into NEOM. And I started, McKinsey, Oliver Wyman, Freehills, you name them. And they started open channels for me. I started dealing with companies, bringing companies in. And guess what? Voila, it happened. All of a sudden, I had a solution. I'm really fast tracking. I had a solution that I could actually examine patients without me being physically there. Wow. It's like a light bulb. Now came the hardest part, is how to get it out there. How can you change people's culture to accept being seen by a doctor who's up there in the cloud? Wow, I'm telling you, what I went through, if you would take my 3 children and put them in one, in one weight and take this, my God, my children, and bringing them up was nothing. That was a piece of cake. So anyways, I started. And then when I finally got the solution, now came the time, now I'm approaching 60. How can I leave a well-established career, highly paid, in the most prestigious hospital? It was like jumping off a cliff. But you know what? I did it. I just did it. Something in the back of me said, Salwa, it's challenge, it's risk, and I did it. And thank God, when I jumped, there was water. It was not rock. So I was able to swim to the shore. How do I move this now? Is there a...
Spacebar or keyboard spacebar?
The keyboard. You guys have it hidden. So when you think about AI, it honestly... it's not complete. Okay. It's a half slide, but that's fine. When you look at AI, it has actually disrupted the health tech. This is really very important. What we're doing is we're disrupting the traditional health system by introducing tech. People don't like that. Don't touch my territory. Don't change me. And this again was really very difficult. So what we decided to do, I said, what disease should I start with? We actually have 22 diseases. But the first disease I decided to start with was diabetes. Why? Because it's a global pandemic. You know, when the COVID came, God bless COVID, I'm sorry. If it was not for COVID, I would not be standing here today, because people realized, yes, things can be done at a distance. It wasn't me, it was the education. I think it was the Ministry of Justice. Health tech is always looked at as a physical thing. So when this succeeded, thank God, this actually came into. So why did we choose diabetes? I actually came to, I remember the Minister of Health, and I said, you're all squirming about COVID. Do you know that diabetes, the silent killer, is actually killing 3 times what the COVID is? That's why we chose. That's why we chose actually the diabetes. So, really interesting. We called it Sedam, and people kept thinking Sedam from my name Selwa. It has nothing to do. Sedam is simply the plural of Sadim, and Sadim means the galaxy. And Neom always says, reach for the moon, reach for the stars and land on the moon. So I wanted to pick a name, and that's what we did. And honestly, if you want to believe it, this is the first health tech startup in the region. I mean, a health tech using AI. We detect and diagnose chronic diseases with emphasis on diabetes, which is really very important. We only concentrate on AI. We don't do telemedicine. And it really hurts me when you're sitting with these people you think they know, and they mix telemedicine with AI, totally different. We're talking about 2 different things. And then what we're doing is we're helping professionals and so forth. Now, Khulud told me to touch a little on the solution that we have now out there, more or less. It's the first Saudi AI solution, totally customized to the Saudis. It's for the Saudi population, although it follows the international guidelines. We know that, and it can integrate, it enhances the screening system. It's highly accurate. I think the first question you're going to ask me, Dr. Salwa, if this solution is able to diagnose diabetic eye disease without me, Salwa al-Hazza, or my likes being there, how accurate is it? That's the first question. People are, well, let me tell you, and I'm a little, with my 40 years, 39 going into 40 years expertise, I've reached only 93%. I trained it. I don't know if I want to call it a male or female, but I think in this setting, I'm going to call it a female. We have to. I trained her, and I can tell you at the moment right now, it has reached 96.4%. I'm just so, and we were doing a little gathering for the underprivileged, underserved. We were in the Salam Mall. My son, who works with me, he's actually hiding back there, who works with me, he's the co-founder. I stood away that, and there was a glitch in the system. So he came up to me, he's like, Mom, can you please fix it? So I came in, and there was a very obese lady sitting. So I said, let him sukuha, don't move her, haram, just leave her. I'll work around her. She heard my voice. She recognized me. Allah ya hadhi ya Dr. Salwa, how lucky are you going to examine me? I said, no. She said, Leish. I said, there's another doctor. She said, when? She's looking around. I said, he's up there. And she's like, Wush qahadu fawq? Why is he up there? I said, Amrallah, you're not going to, look at how smart she is. What did she say? Is he, we always assume it's a he. I don't know why, it's a male dominant. Is he as good as you? I said, Ana allamtu, I taught him and he's better than me. So this is the way you have to change the culture. Now, to be honest, changing the culture of the patients wasn't difficult. It's the physicians. They keep thinking that this is going to take their place. How do you change the knowledge of we tell them it's going to augment your work. And so technically at the moment right now, we have 3 things going on, but my most important that I'd like to concentrate on is the smart examiner. This is what we do. Khulud told me, just touch, and I'll do this in about 1 minute. There's already a camera in the centers, the diabetic centers. We sit the patient. I don't bring any hardware. Everything we do is software. We only take 2 photos of each eye. The traditional is 7 for each eye, so that's 14. So you can imagine the cloud, how less. It's Saudi FDA approved. That's another story. We won't even go into that. It's also approved through the data center, NEDMO, the national data. So everything we're doing is legal, and everything we're doing is going through the right way. The interesting thing, when the patient sits at the camera, can you imagine? No appointment. He can walk in. We have it at the moment right now, we're in 13 centers all over the country. Can you imagine? No appointment, not waiting in line. He walks into that charity center, and within exactly 60 seconds, he will get 2 reports. One report is English, goes to the doctor, and as Ms. Iman rightly said, we should have things in Arabic. We trained it. It took us a year to train it to read Arabic, our solution. And then it gives the patient an actual report. It will tell him red, immediately go and see a doctor, or it will say green, come back for imaging. That's how simple it is. That's what AI is all about. Can you imagine the data that we have collected? We actually now have done more than 25,000 patients. Multiply that by 4, you're talking about 100,000 images. And we know now that data is the fuel. That's the fuel now that powers us. We're not talking about petrol at that point. We've done 24 sites so far. That's how much sites we've visited. We have now 4 healthcare providers that are ready to launch. The most important thing is I think the beautiful thing about this, and I'm sorry there was one slide that we couldn't put up. The beautiful thing is, right now, if you're in tech, but I'm going to talk about health tech, you're in the right place at the right time. Why? You have accelerators and you have incubators. I can tell you, as I'm talking right now, we are in Saddam incubated in garage. So we have all the space they give us. But it's not just about space, it's about being in the same domain. So if I have a question, I can talk to my neighbor, my next door neighbor, the one across the hall. Again, we're talking about networking. This is really very important. Also, Saudi FDA just incubated us in Saddam. So now they have, again, we're talking about empowerment of the startups. And I have to be honest, when it comes to the government, they're happy when they see a woman. They're pushing. But we're not just only, the resistance doesn't come from the government, to be honest. There are accelerators, incubators. I don't know if you've heard about the NTDP, the National Technological Development Program. They give money. They actually give you money. And that's how we're able to survive at the moment. We're only living on grants. And then there's another boost, and then there's an MVP. So anytime we hear about grants, we just jump on it. And guess what? We get it. It was so interesting. The last thing that I'd like to close with is, I think the most important thing is to have the government, to have the private sector, and to have the business all come together. You know, it's an ecosystem. And I think if we can all come together, the one thing, and I'm hoping we'll be able to touch that, because I'm not going to talk about it here, is about, once you start navigating AI, what comes into place, and it's really mind-boggling, is ethics. The ethical tissue, look, I keep thinking, I'm sorry, because I'm a physician. The ethical issue, I just taught students for 4 hours, so I'm sorry about my voice. We're talking about the ethical issues, okay? Then you start getting into governance, compliance, data privacy. I mean, you name it. We could spend a whole day talking about that. But alhamdulillah, we in Saddam just were awarded, and this is so good, but I'm sorry we don't have the slide. We were the early adopters of AI ethics. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I am so proud to be here at this time, actually has been recognized by UNESCO for the AI ethics. They actually chose 20 companies, and these companies are humongous. So we're little Saddam, but we have so much that we're doing. And we were chosen among these humongous companies, Saddam, to actually be one of the early adopters, and we were granted. So again, when you come into data science, into females, it is important. Yes, I run the whole show, but in honesty, as Sanadi actually said, I push my son in the face just to get things moving faster. That's the only way I can propagate it. So thank you for giving me the time to just shed light a little on Saddam, and I'm hoping that we can technically talk a lot about governance, data, the woman, there's a lot of challenges that I didn't put up here because that would take forever. I left that hopefully for the roundtable. So that's my, if anyone needs to ever get a hold of me, we're there. And again, Saddam has nothing to do with Selwa. It's actually the Sadim, the galaxy, which I own a lot to Neom. Wherever I go, Neom has been our initiator, and now we're incubated into Chaos. That's where we run our superpower computers. They've given it to us free, if you want to believe it. Where CACT is also, MCIT, NTDP. I mean, this is the time for everyone to be really into tech. If you've got an idea in your tech, go to Garage. You will be fully supported. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Selwa. You're giving us a wonderful experience, real life experience in Saudi Arabia by an entrepreneur, female entrepreneur who's hands-on data and AI. That is very inspiring. Thank you very much. We definitely learned a lot from your experience. I'll ask you a lot of questions. All right, so next I have the founder, the legendary founder of Western KSA, Dr. Asil Dawood herself with me here. And Dr. Asil is an AI leader in the MENA region and founder of Bayan and many other companies. Dr. Asil, please enlighten us.
Assalamu alaikum. I usually like to speak in Arabic, but I think we have English speakers, so I'll continue in English. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Accelerator Dawood. I have one slide just to quickly introduce me because I usually wear many hats, to be honest. As an experience, I was before an assistant professor at Imam Mohammed bin Saud University. So I've been in the academia. I quit. I went to Oracle. I was a consultant for AI and data. I went back to the government to try it out. I stayed 1 year, and that can tell you a lot. And then I went back to Oracle to be the AI leader for EMEA region, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So that sums up my experience, my work experience. I did 8 years in the US to do my PhD and my master's in informatics, mostly technology. So I worked a lot my whole career is in technology. So working with AI before it was AI, working with data science before it was called data science. It was about data management, they call it different names, but now I think the right name is data science. And then when I was there, I was thinking about doing something extra, doing something more than what just we have. And I remember I really like, since I was in college, I really liked giving back to the community. And Dr. Rij, I think, remembers that. She was my professor at the university. And I really liked going into creating clubs, student clubs, that vibe. So I was that. Even when I went to the US, the same was happening. And then when my last year at my PhD, I was like saying, when I go back to the kingdom, I will do this and that. I don't have enough experience to do this. When I go back, I will create this. I will start my own startup. I will do that. And then the last year we always women feel we are not doing enough. We don't have enough. Still, I need more. Until now, I say I need another degree. I have 3 degrees, but I still say, it's not. I should get an MBA because I'm going into the business field. Maybe I should do that. So I talk about it a lot. The last year, my grandma passed away, and my aunt And then I said, what I'm waiting for. If I'm not giving what I have right now, it's not enough. It's why I'm waiting to get more education, more information. It's never gonna be enough. Not for me, not for the community. So let me start. So I remember how I started, and I wish I have it here. It was YouTube videos, and it was the worst YouTube videos that you can imagine. I was teaching AI in Arabic, and until now it's available in my account. And I remember I have a lot of views, and every time I go back, I was, oh my god, what are these videos? I remember I was recording. Like, I'm an IT, but sorry, I was recording with my phone the screen of the laptop. Like, I didn't record the screen. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. But it was strange. So when I came back to the kingdom, I came back 2019. I started Bayan. Bayan is a non-profit organization focusing on AI and data, and focusing on empowering the community with these technologies. So I saw a gap. I say, okay, people would like to know more about this domain, how we can help the community work better, understand these technologies, and use it in their everyday life. So now Bayan has grown very big, to be honest. So it started first as a community, and we didn't have an umbrella. So that's a challenge that people always ask, like, who are you? Like, are you a non-profit? Are you under the Ministry of like without التجارة? Who are you, a business? But then you have two options. You either become a business, or you become under وزارة الموارد البشرية, like جمعية. I didn't want to be a جمعية. It was too hectic, and we didn't want to be under the ministry as a business, because it's for profit, and I don't want this to be for profit. Until last year, they announced the regulations for starting non-profit business companies, and that's what we have right now, registered as a non-profit organization. It works as a business company or a for-profit company, but all the money goes back to the company itself. And from that, Bayan has evolved from one, I would say, from a community, from one initiative, it becomes 3, it reaches 10, and then every time we're changing the ecosystem, until now we reach to be an AI hub, an ecosystem for an AI hub. So focusing on building new initiatives and building new companies. And the 3 companies that you see are all for profit, coming out from Bayan. So Bayan Academy is the second one, is focusing on edutech and education material in AI and data. And we do a lot of projects. It's one of the first that came out from Bayan. So I think of Bayan as an incubator, as an accelerator, I always say for the team, if this, for example, initiative has grown to reach a certain level, it's mature enough to go out, then we can separate it out from Bayan. So we have Bayan focusing on Bayan Academy, focusing on edutech, CTech focusing on entertainment tech, and then Bitex is the last one, focusing on community, AI community. And as Dr. Salwa said, we need more of interdisciplinary communities. It's not enough. AI is involved in everything right now. And in Bitex, what we focus on is how to build communities around domains that are not really well known, like we could say fashion and AI, sports and AI, gaming and AI, etc. So there was a lot of things that would be done there. And I always say, when we talk about these different initiatives, that becomes a company at the end, is change fast and fail fast. That's how you are able to grow faster and faster. And before I was doing that, before I joined Oracle, I was like, yeah, this is how startups should do. You build it fast, you change very quickly. If something's not working, just change it. If the business model doesn't work, change it. If someone in the team doesn't like what he's doing, change what he's doing to something he would have passion to do it. So I think what keeps our team in Bayan very big. It reached 100 members right now. It's non-profit, so all of them are volunteers. And what keeps them there for many, many years is the autonomy that we give them. It's Bayan is a playground for you. If you are a tech person, you like AI, you like data, come here, do whatever we have. If you are interested in content creation, you can do that. If you're interested in building products, we have a team for that, etc. So it's changing over time, and that's what we are trying to do. I always tell the team, if you are passionate enough and you have a good idea, you will be able to be moved from Bayan to be your own company, and I'm gonna support you in whatever, with everything. And I'll try to push with that. And then when I realized, when I went to Oracle the first time, I was shocked by how they changed their teams very quickly. I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad in my own companies that we are changing fast and everything is hectic and everything is chaos, nothing ordered, and we women like order. We like everything is different boxes and everything the right place. So when I was there, I was like, they will kill a team with 100 people in one day. They will start a new team with 100 people in another day. So it was like, I was telling myself, if they are doing this and they are like 50-year company, I shouldn't feel bad about me doing it the same way. So failing fast and growing is the way to grow fast and be able to build your startup around that. So I will talk about how many. Okay. I have just 2 more slides. I will talk about opportunities. I think I touched based on some of the challenges maybe I went through when I talked about the startups that I worked on. But when we talk about opportunities, I think there is 3 main pillars, which are being a woman, being an entrepreneur, and being in the tech domain. And when you think about women entrepreneurs, we have a lot of women entrepreneurs in different domains here in the kingdom. And you can see big names right now, and they have been here for many, many years. And they are like a role model that we need to have. And you also can see women in tech. They are really, we have role models in that area. But what usually, and we have tech entrepreneurship. We have a lot of men in that domain. A lot of Saudi developed products and solutions that are available. But when you combine the 3, it was impossible to find before a couple of years. But right now, as Iman said, we can like see and try. And I remember when I started at 2019, I was like, I need to find someone I look up to as a role model, as a woman tech entrepreneur, and I couldn't find. And I was telling Dr. Khulud before that in my like these steps of creating these startups and companies and non-profit organization, I was trying to quit a lot of times, to be honest. It wasn't once or twice. It was maybe every year. I was saying, I'm done. I'm gonna stop this. I reached the goal that I want, or legacy that I want. It's enough. Let me stop there. But I always realized, no, there is a new generation that would like to see more. There is more I can do. We still have more time to do that, or I have the energy to do more than that. So let's just do that again and again and try to help others be the same. So what we are trying to do always in Bayan is to push more female also to be able to be creators of a business and owners and entrepreneurs. And I see the challenges in the eyes of the females, to be honest, in the tech industry and how to be an entrepreneur. They have a lot of challenges, and we try our best to make them easier, to make it easier for them to get involved, etc. But sometimes the ecosystem doesn't help you go through it. So sometimes I always say, if you cannot break the system, play the system. So it's okay if you, for example, I was a solo entrepreneur in all of these companies. Right now I have a male CEO in each company, and that made my life very easy, and made these companies actually grow faster and have more trust in them. Unfortunately يعني مع كل الباكج اللي أنا موجودة فيه يعني للأسف. ف very quickly, I think I will close with this statement is, I always say, this session is about investment, entrepreneurship, being in tech, etc. But when we think about it, women usually like to be involved in social companies. They would like, if you look at the numbers, usually social entrepreneurship, you have more women in there more than men. And you can have a non-profit organization focusing in tech, because people will always think about, if it's non-profit, it's usually kids, families, education, health, etc. But we can have non-profit organizations in the tech industry to help others, and this regulation that we have has helped with that a lot. For example, here in Bayan, we were able to serve more than 75,000 people. We were able to do a lot of sessions and workshops and content and events and projects. So there was a lot of things that we were able to do, and we are continuing to do that and continuing to launch new projects and new initiatives. It's a playground, and I always say that we need more passionate people who are willing to contribute and willing to integrate. I love that Dr. Salwa she is an expert in her domain, and she decided to include AI in that domain. We always welcome more people in different domains to come and integrate AI in their domains, because the creativity that can happen is amazing. And that's what I do actually day by day, is trying to connect all domains with AI and see how we can do that very quickly. And we think, I will conclude with this slide. I really like this quote, is any significantly advanced technology is always as magic, and now we are in the era of magic, and let's use that to be able to produce new technologies, be able to be part of the Vision 2030, and being able to include our passion beside the technology and the like creating new projects together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Asil. That was really inspiring, and thank you for bringing the aspect of nonprofit and the feminine aspect of helping the community. This is something unique, and it's very important to touch base upon, and how does that motivate us and how that drive our initiative moving forward. Sometimes we see that it's part of the diversity and part of having this shared opinion where you see the world from the male and female perspective. I'm very privileged to have all of you here with me in the room, and especially my distinguished speaker. Thank you very much for really shedding the light in all these opportunities and challenges that data science create in this industry. And with that, I would like to close with a little story about women empowerment in data science. I was empowered by Dr. Ari. She invited me to be an ambassador, and I have my alumni, Engineer Suad, who was my student, and I invited her to be a WIDS ambassador. So you see over, I don't want to say generations, but over, the different group age, how women are empowering each other, and including, considering the number of female now interested in data science. I think in Saudi Arabia over here, we have great potentials, And as one of my speakers said, Basma, it's wonderful to see that we are comparing, the Saudi achievement to the global achievement, and we are. I think we're in a good position, and we will be even better. With that, I'd like to conclude the streaming, and we'll transition to the offline discussion. Thank you very much for my attendance online.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. Welcome back, everyone. This is the second session of the Women in Data Science Roundtables that we have at Al-Faisal University as part of WIDS Riyadh 2024. And in this session, we have a different topic to cover, and that would be data science and its impact on art, culture, game design, and the creative industry in general. So welcome, everyone, and we'll start with a brief history, although it might be a repetition for those of you who joined us in the first hour, but for those who are tuning in the second hour, I'll start with a context of this event and the community that brought you this programming that we have in today's roundtable discussion. The Women in Data Science is a community of technologists, scientists, and ethicists that do come together to understand and study and share the work of scientists all across the world in the field of data science, which includes AI. It started in 2015 as a conference in Stanford University and grew to be this scale of events that are held as regional events all around the world, with the flagship event being held annually in March of every year at Stanford University. Currently, at this stage, we have more than 200 annual events with more than 6,000 participants as presenters in these events, and the number of ambassadors has exceeded 1,200, which is a number that we're very proud of. And in this session, or in today's event, I share the privilege of organizing this event and connecting with our speakers and our community with two amazing ambassadors. We have Dr. Khulud Khatib, my colleague and fellow ambassador for many years. We go back to since 2017, and our new ambassador, Muhandisa Suad Al-Jafar from Mumra, Wizrat al-Shu'un al-Baladiyya wal-Qarawiyya. It has been such an honor to work with you and to bring this event to light. Again, a bit more about the context, and that would be the link with Stanford University. It started as a conference and an initiative under the umbrella of Stanford up until last year, where the nonprofit organization of Women Data Science emerged. And right now we keep that strong academic and collaborative link with Stanford University, in that the flagship event is held there and the communities of faculty students are engaged in different ways in this global community. Zooming into the local context, we have that wonderful history that Dr. Khulud has shared, and I would reiterate here in that our first participation was with one ambassador in 2017, sponsored by CACS and held at Rafat University with the connection with Dr. Khulud. And from that year, we grew the community of ambassadors. In 2018, it was the first national level event in which it was hosted at King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology, and it was at also the same year for the Western Province. And then it grew to more than 100 ambassadors, and this was Al-Intilaqa under the umbrella of WIDS and KSA, which is a timely moment as Dr. Asil joins us, and we're honored to have you with us today. In that, in 2020, we took it at the national level, and the regional ambassadors covering all regions within the kingdom basically take under their wing new ambassadors so that the community grows in the areas that they have shared interest, whether it's the technology side, the capacity development, the workshops, or roundtable discussions where the experts and like-minded specialists or technologists come together to discuss the ecosystem or the landscape, the opportunities and the challenges that they all face, share, or they can overcome together. This was this is an image of the first event that Al-Intilaqa in 2018 that was in King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. As you can see with WIDS, it also rebranded. They transitioned from what you see here to the more contemporary logos that we have here. Now, one statistic that we're all very proud of, and we're very grateful to the amazing efforts led by Dr. Asil Dawood, in that for the past 3 years, the WIDS and KSA at a national level, where we have the collective efforts of ambassadors across all regions within the kingdom, have held that leading position in terms of participation, with more than 64,000 recipients of these services or broadcasts or events in terms of workshops or courses. And it spanned more than 30 cities within the kingdom, with more than 137 ambassadors or co-ambassadors. And then we have the other statistics with regards to capacity development workshops and speakers. Truly statistics that we're all proud of, and we hope to see continued growth under the leadership. And thank you, Dr. Asil, and your amazing team for CTEC in leading these efforts. Now, for this year, basically, we are bringing this event under the umbrella and tansiq and support of CTEC, and that is one of the companies that emerged from Bayan with Dr. Asil. We have different events all across the kingdom that kick-started in October, and this being one of them. The focus here is on a topic that is rarely discussed. We have seen a few, I remember Fi'afat a few years back, and definitely we would need more, and that is the impact of data science on art, on culture, and in many cases, the application of these technology tools and platforms in industries such as the game industry or the repositories that we have emerging for digital culture or heritage. So this is the theme for today's session, and I'll start by setting the stage for the roundtable discussion for our online session, and that is basically to look at the broad spectrum of technologies that we have in the field. So if we look at the applied domain of AI in art and culture, it contributes towards the creation of art, the context of generative AI, and the creation of music, art, still art, or performance arts is evident, and we're seeing it growing with many ethical issues, while at the same time there are many contributions that have already been recognized. Art is also, or data science is also a contributor towards art authentication, which supports the ecosystem of the growing interest in curating art and in the monetization of such creations. We also have the aspect of culture and the preservation of culture and heritage, and the digitization aspect of that. One example are the platforms or the tools, and the sandbox of the Alan Turing Institute is one of many of such examples. Now, with the tech giants, we also see some tools and platforms that are created to either bring art closer to the users and the communities with populations all across the world, accessing the collections of art in museums, such as the collections under Google Arts and Culture, and they take it one step further in that they create the games and the tools that actually attract the users to certain types or genres of art and culture, so that they explore more, learn more, and these repositories can become more accessible. Another application domain to art would be the collection of arts and the repositories, mainly for research or the preservation of the creative industries in regions across the world. With heritage, it might be the digitization, so that these contributions and creative expressions of different regions of the world are preserved, digitized, and perhaps made accessible for researchers or for historians. And in other cases, it's just the creative approach of managing these repositories and perhaps monetizing it or bringing value to what these repositories could contribute towards education and culture in the countries that value these cultures or are interested, or populations that are interested in cultures across the world. In the context of heritage, the global atlases that we're seeing emerging all around the world, where crowdsourced data basically contributes towards platforms where the communities contribute towards showcasing their art, or in some cases, it's a platform that is dedicated to the artists themselves, so that they do have the opportunity to connect with the community and perhaps contribute more if and when needed, and aligned with their model of participation within the communities of interest, whether locally, regionally, or global. One example is the Living Heritage Atlas for Beirut. It was the post-bombing era where they wanted to preserve some sites of Beirut, and you can navigate the city map basically with a GIS system, even at a neighborhood level, and look up information about the artists, the crafts people within that region, and you can move the window of time. So I can roll back 10 years, or I can look at the current landscape of artists within a region of the world. The the technology platform itself was developed at MIT, but we're seeing similar atlases being introduced in different societies for different purposes, and it can be adapted to the interests of cultures and populations around the world. So this is just a glimpse into the different ways that data science has contributed to the applied domain of art and culture. And for today's session, I'm honored to share the stage or the platform, both the virtual and the physical platform, with four amazing speakers. We have Dr. Hanan Makki, the founder of Qandiya Studio. We have Dr. Sara Ghalib, the founder of Keys. We have Dr. Duha Angawi, a faculty and scholar in Majal Graphics Design at Princess Noura University, and Dr. Mariam Al Isa, the CEO and founder of Saudi Signatures and an art curator. They each have a different alignment with data science in the work that they do, and we'll be hearing from them directly one by one. And I'll be moderating the session for the online version. Then we'll transition to the offline roundtable discussion to share the challenges and opportunities that we have in the field of art and culture. And without further ado, I'll be now transitioning to our first presenter, Dr. Hanan Makki, the co-founder of Qandiya Studio and a specialist in electronic games at the Ministry of Communication and IT. تفضلي دكتورة.
Hello, this is Hanan Makki Zakari, but people might remember me as Hanan Makki. It's easier for them for some reason. Sometimes they call me Zakaria, sometimes Zakar. So I keep it as simple as Hanan Makki. I want to just give a brief what I have done so far in terms of what brought me to data science. Just a brief who I am. I came from a family who cares about education, culture, heritage. They always have a taste for Arabic calligraphy. My father was pushing me to have beautiful handwriting and something like essential to learn. When I started I started from art and design background. So I started in, my bachelor degree was in Islamic art. So I had to learn about many materials to use, from wood to metal to then digital art and so on. In my master degree, I learned about digital art. So when I did my design innovation, the course, it was in Leicester, Devonport University in England. And it was the time when I started using augmented reality, learning about VR and learning about something called serious games. And serious game is something related to games for other purposes, education and healthcare, and you can name it. So anything beside entertainment, it has some purposes to improve people's lives. And I learned about Unity. That was 2012. Unity is a well-known engine for game developers right now too. If you wanted to start and learn about game development, you needed to learn through Unity. Then there is another bit hard like harder engine is called Unreal Engine, which is they're using it for games and movies. And I learned during that time, they're using augmented reality for heritage and culture to see outside, which is very historical places, and it's brought you back to the era, Roman era, for example, ancient era. And that was like, wow, this is amazing, because I always see myself not in one discipline. I always see myself as an educator who's mixed with psychology, technology, and I never seen things as its own in terms of art. And that one is decided to do my PhD in serious games for autistic children. And I remember one of my friends, they came like, Hanan, are you sure you wanted to do that? You should be just fine artist. No, don't go to psychology. You know nothing about autism. And I told her, well, I learned about how to teach and the psychology behind it. And it's gonna be hard, definitely, if you wanted to do PhD. So why is not make it fun for me? So this is when I decided to go to autism, and I focus it in children, because the earlier you tackle these issues, the higher chance to get independent for those population. So I did my PhD, and then after that I worked for like a lecturer in computer game design in Southampton University in England. And then I was doing nothing, no research, no creative work, and I'm like, when they say سمكة في الموية, fish in the sea, if you take me out of the environment of creativity, I feel like I'm dead. So I quit everything and I returned back to Saudi Arabia. When I saw, it's like, let's start up my studio, because they were like one of the greatest, I found the greatest initiative by MCIT, Ministry of Communication Information Technology, Game Changers. And I was the only one with PhD there. I remember people ask me, are you sure you want to go there? Because you will be the one who's had knowledge. I said, yeah, but I was away for 13 years from the country, and it has no connection, no talents. So it's a perfect place for me to know and find, founders. Because if you say game development is about, different disciplines, sound, programming, design, and art. So it was really a fun year. And by the end of that program, I established Andil Studio, which was I will more explore it with you here. Okay, so I wanted just to shift here a little bit in the government and talk what kind of, because this is when I started here, when I returned back into Game Changers, and it was by MCIT. There is many initiatives. I will just focus on a few of it because of sake of time. One of the initiatives is Saudi Digital Academy, focusing on certain goals and empowering fresh graduate. While there is academic week, they have different as well shift and focus in individual or people who's wanted to go in the industry or to start up companies. Code focusing only on entrepreneurships, which is a perfect place for any person wanted to do in tech. And that one is it's really a great combination. If you go to المرسلات, there where you say code and front of it, it's Saudi Digital Academy. So we empower individual and they empower the studios in the tech. So I just wanted to refer here to 2030 vision. That is really important to tackle, and I'm focusing here in game industry in general, not just game development. So that prediction is the job is going to be above 39,000 jobs by 2030. And when you say that number is directly and indirect to gaming. Investment, there is a lot of investment. This is why I feel really lucky to be in this country, because when I was in the UK, seeing people like my students when I was teaching, it was really for them difficult to get funding or grants. And definitely with the GDP, there is going to be above 12 billion dollars. And this is started just now. I think I mentioned another figures, 250 studios, game studios by 2030. That is the target. There's a lot of pressure as well for entrepreneurship here. Aramco have a great initiative, ITHRA, and I was one of those people enter a creative solution program, and it's really amazing because they are integrate art, culture, and technology, and have it like in XR and immersive technologies. You are have connection with people in district from the globe. And they are focusing a lot in art and culture, which is really rare to see in the kingdom when we're talking about a non-profit organization. Savvy, and I think, do you know Savvy, guys? Yeah, for anyone in game, Savvy, it's the biggest game studio, Saudi game studio here. So going to focus on reflected heritage and culture in their games. They will be different from strategy games to mobile games and so on, which is got like Savvy, and the studio is called Steer Studio, which is الطارة بالعربي. And this is really important because you can see all of this initiative really serving one goal for 2030 in gaming, to empower individual and in business side as well. For me, when it's come about industry, game industry, I will focus only on my personal experience with Qandil Studio. Qandil Studio is a startup Saudi-based game development that focusing on heritage and culture and reflect and doing it through storytelling. Myself, since I was a child, I was exposed to many cultures like Japanese, Western cultures, but we didn't know about our own culture. And this is what I feel like my duty, being as well as educator, it's like to educate our new generations to learn and go to the root and understand where they came from, to know where to head to. So we started here. I'm going to show some example about Qandil, but let's talk about the government, which is MCIT. I show just here a few examples. If you wanted to learn about it more in details, we can talk about it later. So with code, as I told you, there is many programs to empower startups in tech. So one of them is called رياضة الألعاب, or I think they call it game champions in English. So and it's really good because they have kind of flexible hours. You needed just to if you wanted to enter this program, you needed just one of your founders to be in the program, not all the members, but they encourage everyone to be there. You will have your own space, you will have your own mentors, and you will put you in contact with people in the industry, whether it's here or in the globe. From my experience, what I saw it, they have another initiative which is called, or program is called Dev Zone, and it was really nice to see people from Japan, from Western, from Europe, from US, and from Brazil, I guess, which is a very, very good case. I've seen it in a conference earlier in Cologne this year. And it's really nice to see those people who's been in the same, journey you are now going on. So they will give you a lot of tips and maybe some tricks when it's come about raising funding and to collaborate with international developers and so on. Saudi Digital Academy, they have different mode of teaching. They have e-learning for people who's working and they don't have the time, so it's more like self-paced. And they have as well boot camps which is from 3 to 4 months about game development, whether you wanted to learn about art, design, programming, and it's this focus more for fresh graduate or people who is looking for a job. And they have as well a lot of webinars, short courses for universities, academic way, something really I'm proud to see in the kingdom. They started a diploma, I think it was a few weeks ago, in gaming and XR, which is really nice for a year. It's really nice to see it here in the kingdom because we have this limitation in terms of where you can get. We don't have degree, as you know, in game development here in the kingdom. But this is why the initiative being created to empower individuals or even raise awareness. This is what we are facing as well. A lot of parents, they have an issues with their like children. Why you wanted to go in games? You are wasting your time, or maybe you make you aggressive and so on. All the stereotype about this, but I can't talk about this for hours. So it just before it started about Qandil, I wanted to just ask you, what do you think, and when is it started AI in game, using it in games? And just guess, you'll be surprised. It is in 2000? No. It's actually started in last century, in 40s, late 40s, which was using it in game for non-playable characters. You know, when you're playing games, there is characters moving. That was NPC, yeah. It's like, yeah, NPCs, or even like if you're talking about when it started first in PC in computer science labs. It wasn't even for publics. And this is really important in game development because a lot of people, they say, okay, how we can integrate AI in gaming, it's really being used there. But I think nowadays it's more focusing on collecting data, and this is with the power of it. You learn about the player behaviors, how many hours or maybe how many minutes they just stay in one place and they move it, or maybe how many times they repeat the levels. And this is really good to an indication for us as a developer where to go and to study more about the player behaviors. And this is really important. I'm going to show here some example, but it's not that much when it's come about AI because it is in early stage. It's demo and integrating AI. It's a bit difficult because it's VR. It's kind of easier to integrate it in PCs and mobiles, but however, it's happening already. But for us, because we are learning about our culture, we develop in the games. We are focusing on the art and culture of the games. So Qandil Studio, as I mentioned, it started just a few years ago. It's established in 2022, and it was with Game Changers. So we created the first game, and it's called Mirage City Under the Sand, إرم ذات العماد. تتكلم that era about ancient time in Arabia. It's not really clear where exactly in Arabia. Some claim it says in north of Arabia, some of them say in the south. It doesn't matter for me. I just went to see art in that era, and it's this is when I saw it in the south of Saudi Arabia or north of Yemen, which is Hadramaut, Mamlakat Saba, and this is when I studied art and I started doing our imagination here. And it was in this game you will have like voice over. You play as a character and learn about the culture. You will see the art itself there based on خط المسند, and the font of Musnad, it's more like Hebrew or hippogriff, like something like Egyptian old fonts, or maybe Greece fonts. It wasn't connected like nowadays of Arabic. So we had to study that to integrate this there. I'm thinking about a very little of puzzle to make it engaging. but we had some of the voiceovers of Nisnas, we call it the demon, Jinni, we call it Nisnas, and how to represent it there. And because it's very strong in our culture to talk about, if you wanted to fear, children or people, and we started talking about it, and it's really strong there since ancient time. Then that we have done it here, reflection being published in 2023, but it was actually created in 2022, and we took first place in Gamathon, and it was really nice because this is when I reflect about our culture again, what we have learned about Islamic art. So you have to collect a certain shape to create the the geometry, and this is for patients who are post-patient, like post-stroke patient. And this is when we learn. I came, from art and design, a bit of technology, but I'm not in medicine. So we collaborated here with Faisal University to understand about certain movement, what kind of exercise they needed for ventilation and so on. And it's still demo. And I'm saying, is it still demo? Because I don't know how to go and access to healthcare. It's quite difficult to go and get access to healthcare because you needed data here. However, this is one of the projects that is really good to have culture related for patients. And this is really important. It's not just adapted to games from Western and just play. You needed to understand the player. So the last one is Hijaz Railway. Hijaz Railway is talking about in 20th century. I think if you are from Hijaz. Not many Hijazi, by the way, knows about it. But anyway, you will find yourself in that era in 19th or 20th century, and you will hear a lot of people talking in different dialects, Egyptian accent, Syrian accent, from Arabia as well, and German language and Turkish. Turkish is because of the worker. And this is what you can see. It was actually for the new people who was born after 2000. They couldn't get the point why the character was like writing on the notebook. But I told her, yeah, because there is no phone back then. There is no social media. This is the way how people communicating to each other. So it was just funny because, for us it's really, something nice. It's like, what is the point of writing down? And that was, you can see and understand about your target audience. So I wanted to highlight it here, limitation. Although there is a lot of high investment in nowadays, it's still like the investment is more like funding, not like grants. Grants is still little because if you wanted to develop video games, it's really high cost for developers to hire. Market as well, it's really competitive. As someone locally here from Saudi Arabia, got a little bit of experience to compete with with the globe. It's really difficult to compete, but it's really important here to understand who's your target audience and why you're doing, and you need to bring something new, never been created before, reflect culture and heritage, because this is what the globe hunger for. Shortage of skilled developers, so we usually collaborate not just with local, we needed to collaborate as well with international artists who are familiar with the game development. So I think it's really good as well to as a solution to raise awareness about game development or e-sport in general, because organizing annual conferences still is not existing yet in the kingdom, and it's really good, and I've seen it in many countries doing it. It's to raise awareness and to connect as well developer together. Develop as well accessible games, because many of these games, it's like, they don't consider people with disabilities. So this is open people, like when you're talking about healthcare or education, that is will flourish the ecosystem here. And invest in education. Education needed. We need it in academia. Still, like there is a lot of university doing it as a tracks, but we never seen this in we would say in as a course for game development, as an art, design, or programming, or maybe sound engineer, because that one of the things even we lack of it. Yeah, I think that is a quite brief about the when we're talking about in game sectors. And if you have any question later on, we can go in depth on it. Thank you, everyone.
Of course, thank you.
يعطيك العافية. شكرا جزيلا. Thank you, Dr. Hanan. And as rightly noted by Dr. Hanan, most of the game engines right now have AI modules in them. It's intense, the use of AI in the generation, in generating content, and also in the operation or the operating mode of these applications. So thank you so much for that insight. As we transition now to Dr. Sara Ghalib, we're delighted to have you with us today. You're the founder of the KEYS project and also the director of وريادة at Aramco. So welcome, Dr. Sara, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Head of incubation at وريادة. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I want to say Dr. Arij and Dr. Khalud, thank you so much for this opportunity. This is my third year engaging with WIDS, and we need to have more of these intimate conversations because this is really how we support one another. So I see some familiar faces and some that maybe I should tell a little bit about my background. So when I first came to Saudi, this is now 14 years ago, I introduced the concept of social entrepreneurship to the kingdom. I'm a master level trainer through the US Department of State. I've trained thousands of entrepreneurs and pre-entrepreneurs to date. I was very lucky to be the first female senior GM at Abdulatif Jameel. And in that experience, I established the MIT Enterprise Forum and the Saudi chapter. And in that experience, I noticed something. This is Iman and I go way back, and I guess we're one of the OGs, I think, of entrepreneurship في المملكة, alhamdulillah. So what I found was that consistently over and over again, I noticed that our startups kept failing. And so I started to dig a little bit deeper, obviously, starting my career in entrepreneurship. I started to see that there was some sort of a consistent pattern from the startup. So, I've designed and implemented boot camps and accelerators. My day job is head of incubation at, as you mentioned, at WAG. But what happened was something kind of a light bulb went off. So I started to dig a little bit deeper, and I started to see some statistics في المملكة that was a little bit concerning. So what I found, a global statistic that held true for Saudi, is that 50% of high school students graduate and have no clue what they want to do in their career. Dig a little bit deeper, closer to home, 30% of university students in Mamlaka don't graduate, and the number 2 reason after low academic performance is lack of self-awareness. So I started on a mission. I decided that I was going to use my background as a statistician, and I was going to develop that foundation that we were missing so terribly. Last week I was at the STEM conference, and everyone kept saying, critical thinking and problem solving, and this is how we start to develop these next generation of leaders. But are we really giving our shabab the opportunity to understand what that really means? So I developed the first course. It took me a few years. The course 1 of our journey is identifying your purpose, your passion, and your mission in life. Actually, this one was the most important one, not only to give our shabab the sense of confidence. I mean, how many of you knew exactly what you wanted to do when you graduated high school? Exactly. A handful, صح? Okay, but yet we empower these, you're a kid at that point, right? To make major life decisions. I remember I did 13 focus groups. My team was going to kill me. 13 focus groups from our course number 1 alone. And consistently, almost every single student said this was the first time that anyone had ever asked them truly what they wanted to do with their life. Now, when I developed the course number 1 and I used gamification, I'm an avid gamer, by the way, Dr. Hanan. So you and I, and both of my boys are low functioning autistic, so we have a lot in common. But what I noticed was that when you had a chance to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation, in addition to the virtual course that we offered, it yielded a 100% positive feedback experience. So ladies and gentlemen, there's a few gentlemen in here. Last year, our course number 1 got first place gold award from the UK Learning Technologies. Alhamdulillah. We have embedded 164 data points in course number 1. So that gives us an opportunity to really see what is driving our students. What are their challenges? What are they excited about? One of the things, subhanAllah, when I started looking at the data, is that we found that 75% of our students want to inspire others and be inspired. Do you know how powerful that is when you're developing opportunities for them to engage? So after we completed course number 1, and wallahi, alhamdulillah, but it's a good thing, and we have not had a single rollout today that did not yield at least one student in tears saying that I've changed their life, alhamdulillah. So, khalas, we started with course number 1, but then I kept hearing the same thing over and over again. طيب دكتورة وبعدين what's next? So that's where we started to realize that how are we preparing our youth for tomorrow? Especially we're talking about tech leaders, we're talking about data analytics, we're talking about preparing them for careers, right? But if you think about it, it goes back to those 21st century learning skills, right? And as much as we want to be able to give them courses and everything, there's nothing that will take place of the human interaction. So I have some slides. There we go. By the way, the slides are really text heavy because I wanted to throw statistics that will help us since we're doing facilitation, because I found that these are some of the things that I was not aware of. So I thought that maybe that would help facilitate a discussion. So from an ed tech perspective, what is it that we need to prepare for these leaders of technology for tomorrow? Well, the first thing is, the first challenge we have is there, and Doctora, you mentioned that skills gap. There's so many new tools and algorithms and methodologies. How do you keep up? My question to you is, are you preparing youth for employability or adaptability? So also, what's missing is a lack of practical experience. Data science, everyone can, definitely all of you who are working with data sets can say that it requires hands-on experience, right? Solving real world problems. You need that level of experience. Did you know that for the tens of thousands of university students who graduate every single year, there's only like a handful, literally, of internships and co-ops available? And the students are like, yep. So how are we expecting for them to be confident in their career path if they haven't actually practiced? The other thing that we found is that our shabab want to be connected with the bigger picture. How do they, as professionals, connect to the Vision 2030? What are the SDGs? What are the global goals? Where does Saudi sit in terms of the innovation index? All of those things. So we needed to start having more connection to the conversations that are happening at the government level so that they can envision who they will be. Now, Iman was talking earlier, about the where we've been in terms of entrepreneurship, and absolutely, I think that with a background, of course, with entrepreneurship with myself, what I found was that that has been the closest. It's how fast our ecosystem has accelerated. It's because we focused on giving access to a variety of programs for our youth. And that's exactly what we need to do across all industries. And I think that we can absolutely use entrepreneurship as a model of excellence for Mamlaka, alhamdulillah. And then, of course, this sad news, of course, we do have celebrations and we don't focus on the negative, but the reality is still there. 22% of our total tech workforce are ladies, so we need to step up that game. And then, of course, I put in some fun facts in there for you. To be the leading in AI in 2030 by contributing 135 billion, alhamdulillah. And then, of course, 42% of jobs in Saudi are expected to be automated by 2030. But let's not forget, as part of that automation and part of being able to utilize AI, it means giving them the proper foundation to be able to ask the right questions, know how to use it properly, so that way we can truly advance. So, this was my solution. So the Keys project, we have created a formula, alhamdulillah, that works. The very first step is self-awareness. That's where you have to do a deep dive of, again, your purpose, your passion, your mission in life. But what we do is we then connect with certified career development specialists to create the blueprint for their career. Then we have our civic leadership program that focuses on leaders in the kingdom, that uses our role models, our case studies, and what's happening in the region that's specifically to our shabab to support the development of their leadership skills. And then what we do is we have clients who focus on their particular area. So after we've given them that solid foundation of leadership, they have the confidence, they know exactly what they want to do, then we interview them and then we put them into their respective track. So we're working right now on a sustainable banking track. We have a pharmaceutical track that's coming fit tariq. I know pharmaceutical, right? And those are the things, we need that level of support for our shabab to see the role models to who they can become. So these are just some of the foster the critical thinking, investing in the leadership skills. What we also do exceptionally well is we offer opportunities for mentorship. You need a holding hand, especially when you're trying to figure out your career path. It's something huge. So, what we've done, alhamdulillah, our clients include NEOM, MISC, we've partnered with Microsoft. We also have partnered with ICF International, so we have access to over 300 coaches and facilitators across the kingdom, because it was mentioned earlier today, access. Whether you are in Tabuk, whether to develop themselves. And so these are what our data has shown. We now, alhamdulillah, inshallah, in just 2 weeks, we've been working on it since January. Finally, our platform will be launched and we will be able to offer Microsoft certifications. We're also finalizing with PMI so that our students can have access to project management and have access to a wealth of information that will help them with their future. So, ya'atikum alf afiyah, thank you so much. I tried to do it quickly, I know, but I always leave with my tagline, which is live with passion, but most importantly, live with purpose. Thank you.
Thank you.
course, thank you so much, Doctora. A truly inspiring example of a data-driven solution with the problem being identified as a statistician, as you mentioned, Doctora, with a good understanding, a deep understanding of the culture and the context of where the solution is needed. Thank you very much. Very insightful, and we're transitioning now back from to art from culture. So, Doctora Duha Angawi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Thank you for having me here. It's such an honor. My name is Duha Angawi. I'm a assistant professor in graphic design. I'm an academic and a researcher in the area of the integration of between the field of graphic design and artificial intelligence. I'm an academic for 15 years now, teaching students in the sector of graphic designs. I've done my bachelor degree, and thank you very much, Dr. Hanan, for asking that question, because I'm going to answer it now. I've done my bachelor degree in interior design from Dar al-Hikmah University. Then I've done my master's degree in graphic design from UCLan University in UK. Then I moved on doing my PhD in design in UK as well in Lancaster University, focusing on the emergence of graphic design and artificial intelligence and how such a technology is impacting the creative industry and particularly impacting graphic designers in Saudi Arabia. That was back in 2017 when DALI and Sora, none of this was available at that time. So it was such a pleasant journey, really, to transition from one field to another and see these connecting into interdisciplinary fields and how each of these fields is helping another. And spending 15 years in academia brought so many questions into my head while teaching and observing the behaviors of the students inside classes and how they wanted everything to be very quick. I want to get the solution. I want to get this design super quick. And that brought me to think, and maybe many have questions why I'm here also tonight when I don't have any backgrounds in technology at that time. Say, asking what's going to happen in the near future, why these students are behaving such way, and how we can take this into our benefits rather than being challenged of how these technology will impact us and affect us. And maybe this is one thing. When Dr. Arij have contacted me, I asked myself, what did I know about data before all of this have happened? Data was a very ambiguous word for me. Artificial intelligence and all the technologies moving from the first industrial revolution all the way here. Graphic design have changed and everything else around it have changed too. But the word data was very ambiguous. I didn't know much except for I know that there's some people were tracking me and knowing that I am leaving a digital track out there for them to observe my behaviors. But again, I thought maybe why do I use this as a benefit for me to find opportunities and understand the challenges, to be empowered with and be knowledgeable enough to help use that technology in my favor rather than being an enemy against me. So if we want to look here into that graph again, us as designers, we only know the codes of figures, semiotics, symbols, and that's the code we engage with people in. But computer science, for example, they are the one who knows what data and algorithms in, which is we don't know anything about. So I've started looking into 3 different areas: how graphic design, what's happening in Saudi Arabia, and what's happening also in the technology of artificial intelligence impacting the industrial revolution, the movements of what's happening in the area of research and practice, of course, the Vision 2030. All of that brought together new trends and new traits and new research into the area. And that brought the questions for me of how it's impacting us as designers and what is the maximum we can do to use these tools and these technologies to our favor. So if I were to ask now today, there is a diversity of people with different backgrounds, what is data is? For us, nowadays, it's not a foreign word. It is really something that we use in with algorithms to understand how to build a model and how these models act to generate designs with all the things happening. We know that many research labs, many big names in the brands industry working with these technologies to bring in the presence of data in the creative industry, having data-driven designs. Before, we didn't know what data-driven design is. We design for a purpose. We are designing to solve a problem. But now we have this trend in this area called data-driven designs. We design based on the data given and based on the analysis of data and the behaviors of our end users and consumers. So now, as designers, we're not only solving problems, but we are understanding our consumers, so we can deliver something for them that gets their attention and build up the brand audience and the value of the brand, and also to be connected. Netflix, for example, in 2016, they've done something very beautiful. They track the behaviors of the consumers on their platform. They understand what the individual likes and dislikes, and based on that, they've generated a previous set of designs for the posters of a movie, for example. And based on your behavior, what kind of movies do you like? That poster comes up to get your attention, so you click in on the movie and you watch it. And so on and on. These designs are previously built to get your attention. So here we created a new trend and a new area of research, a new area to understand what a design is. Of course, also with this, we are fostering inclusivity, and we are fostering new area, a new era of what calls design. We know that DALL-E is available, it wasn't before. We know that Sora is available, it wasn't before. Text to image, text to videos, they are generating the designs. And that's one of the things that I was asking my question in the PhD research. What's gonna happen if these are present? Where are we gonna sit in? And also Dr. Sarah have mentioned that in one point we will be automated, everything will be automated. So with that fear, on me as an individual, I thought maybe being knowledgeable and equipped enough with the right tools and the right knowledge, we can work hand by hand with that technology to co-op and to generate something new. And that's one of the things that I proposed in my research as well, to have a self-driven brand. What does it mean? The self-driven brand is a brand that is fully automated, have an embedded models in them. They understand the behaviors in all open platforms, in social media, on everywhere, and they start to understand their behaviors. Advertisings on the streets will be up based on the behaviors of the consumers, on social media, on all platforms. That brings in that consumer closer to me. And of course, we have seen in one point some of the accounts of some of the brands, they speak to you in chatbots and things, and you know that's not a real human behind that, but they speak to you and they understand you very well because they had all your data. And again, from that point, if we looked up at this map, that was one of the results I came up in 2020 in my PhD research. The results based on a sample here in Saudi Arabia, women and men in the different fields of creative industry. There was a lot of ambiguity. No more is. There was a lot of intellectual resistance, barely minimum. That was back in 2020, and 4 years after, most of these things that came out of the results is almost vanished. Why is that? Because technology is evolving, our knowledge is evolving, and awareness has started to kick in, which is quite interesting because we are not as individuals also working on our knowledge and behaviors, but also we are supported by the vision of 2030. Sadaya, for example, if we can see here, there's, for example, was one of the barriers and one of the challenges was language barrier. It's no longer an issue because Sadaya have worked on Alam. They've done these models to understand Arabic and Lugha Arabiya, and it was no longer an issue now. But 4 years ago it was. Sora and DALL-E and all of these things, what they've generated now, it was an issue and a challenge for people before, but it's no longer is. So from that, I also would like to address, and maybe I was talking about that with the Dr. Asil earlier, that in such research back in 2020, most of my sample who accepted to be part of that research. Out of the 23 participants, most of them were women. 17 women out of the 23 participants who challenged themselves and took the courage to be engaged in such a research, knowing that they are more tolerable for such challenges. And out of the 17, 15 have acknowledged that they know in the near future an AI will take over in some places in the creative industry, and lots of the things were communicated. So we want to salute all the women who support such research and be part of the change, because we would like to be empowered with such knowledge and such fields, and to be an effective part of it in it. Thank you very much. That's my briefing.
Thank you. Shukran. Thank you, Dr. Duha. Thank you for bringing forward a designer's perspective. It was a fresh take on the same topics, and I really like that you brought forward also ethical concerns with intellectual property, the privacy, and how a designer also sees that from the research that you have done, and also in the applied domain that we have. Last but not least, we have Dr. Maryam Al-Isa, an artist and art curator, CEO and founder of Saudi Signatures, which has been around for many years all across the globe. The floor is yours, Dr. تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for having me here again for the third time. Allow me to salute the ladies, and I'm pleasure to be with you today. I'm Maryam Al-Isa. I'm a genetic consultant, and I'm addicted to research. I do a lot of research in my field, genetics. I'm also an innovation consultant, where I support companies and biotech and innovation. Also, I'm associate professor here in Al Faisal. How it started, the art thing? Well, it started when my parents realized or became resilient to the fact that they need to stop painting the walls and start purchasing crayons and paper for me. And since then, my first art gallery was when I was 7. I painted oil and canvas. I get the training from my mom. She was an artist. And since then, art is my guilty pleasure. I'm convicted with art, and I love art, and I still do art, whether creating art galleries, participate in art galleries, or supporting artists, whether in Saudi or outside. So what about signature? Well, it started when I was in UK. I'm scientist, I'm addicted scientist. However, we still have this corner where I enjoy being with artists from Saudi Arabia. So I visited many times Devonport. I visited also Birmingham University, where there's a lot of Saudi artists studying there. We exhibit from time to time. And then the group of artists and I decided to create a platform where it's sustain art and exhibit, or let's say be a platform for Saudi artists from who's studying in UK, or those who's willing to ship their artwork to UK. So what we did, we register a non-profit organization of art called Saudi Signatures, and we mention, or let's say we chose the name because each one of us do his own signature in a different way. We do have a lot of artists who's doing, let's say, the fine art. For myself, I'm doing oil and canvas, whether it's contemporary or modern, but still we have the modern artists where they do games, where they do animation, where they introduce AI into the art. We exhibit more than 50 art galleries in UK and in the States and Ireland as well. We were hoping to open our branch in Australia to be the empire that cover most of the globe. Unfortunately, we didn't achieve that. That happened during COVID. We have a collection of 600 photography signed by the photographers to be participate in different art galleries around the globe. We have also 100 fine painting, and we do also have 6 translated movies. the hassle was that we have to move from one place to the other. However, lately we start to digitalize most of the things, so we start to invite people who's making our life easier. I think I clicked the wrong thing. Oh yeah. So a lot of, let's say, leaders visited us, whether in the state or in UK. This is the Lord of Newcastle. He attended one of the art galleries and he was happy about what he saw about Saudi Arabia. We select the art that no one else would see. So what he said, I came with a vision that I'm going to see men and white, women and black, desert and camels, but what I saw is different. We selected our, let's say, art pieces to present the kingdom in different region with different things people didn't see before. That was successful. We awarded the Moderate Award in 2018 by King Khalid Al Faisal for being the best non-profit organization that served the kingdom outside the country. As I mentioned, the hassle was that most of the art galleries that we created require a lot of, because we have to ship things from one place to the other. This was in New York, opened by the cultural attaché. We have to make artists really it was a lot of time to organize, it was a lot of money to build an art gallery, rent an art gallery, really so we've been trying to adapt digital life, let's say, after somewhere on the side. The other thing that we also, one of the art galleries, we also work with virtual museums. So she presents a lot of movies in Saudi Arabia, and was one of the things that I would say valuable in the art gallery, that it was simple to carry in different regions, and at the same time it was very valuable. We also created, one of our team member, Najla, she's animation. She's specialized in animation. She's a computer scientist who studied animation. She creates a lot of movies that participate on those art gallery representing Saudi Arabia. We have a bit of issue to digitalize everything and upload it online, which is one of the obstacles that we are struggling with, is the copyright and the ethics about that. But still, we'll try to keep going with the minimum resources and with, however, fueled by the energy of our team. With AI, I think we can go beyond what we did so far. In the future, inshallah, we will do better. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Maryam, for highlighting the opportunities for data to contribute to such an initiative, and thank you for the amazing work that you did in Tawaqiyah over the years. Now, as we approach the end of the broadcast segment of our roundtable discussion, and then we transition to discuss some of the issues that our speakers highlighted, I'd like to extend our sincere appreciation to our audience members, both with us here physically, and to our audience members who are connected virtually via Accelerator. And also a big thank you for our supporters, Accelerator platform at MCIT, and for Faisal University's support in hosting this event year after year since 2021. And with that, we close the broadcast and we transition to the roundtable discussion. Thank you all very much.